Hello everyone, how you doing? Welcome to CDR Bristol today with the lovely man DJ Polo. Brought to you for the Arts Council today. It makes this possible, let us do these lovely talks. How you doing today?
How am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. First time doing this today with you,
Yeah.
talking in public. Been excited about it.
Yeah, man, me
How
too.
have you been about it?
Yeah, I feel good. I feel good. Up for it.
Good. She taught music.
Let's go.
So, let's talk about the earliest sort of influences for you. What was going on at home when you were younger? What was getting played in the house with your parents back in the day?
Yeah, so my dad's quite a big Northern Soul fan. So, a lot of Northern Soul from early. My mum probably a lot of Eurythmics, a bit of Sade, that sort of thing when I was younger. So, all good music all the way around. My mum's taste in music has changed a bit now, and it's not as good.
What's she
But
listening to?
just like, I don't actually know what she listens to now, but it's not good. Yeah, my dad still listens to Northern Solo still,
Yeah.
and a few bands as well, so.
Good. You said bands. Is that what influenced you when you were younger? Used to be in bands, didn't you?
Yeah, so, I mean, I've played a few instruments. Started playing piano first when I was 6 or 7, and also played sax, and then went on to start playing guitar, and then was in a couple of bands when I was like really young.
How old were you in these bands?
Well, I think there was a couple in school, and then about 16, 17, I used to be in a metal band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were a rebellious teenager, or were you? What was going on?
What's that?
Were you a rebellious teenager?
No, nothing like
You
that.
just like the metal, getting into the bands.
Yeah, I was into it.
You're a good boy.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, was quite into metal back then actually. I can't listen to it now. It's too like detuned. Yeah, so I was in a band then. Until I got, I guess when I was playing in bands then as well, I was still sort of like listen to bits of drum and bass.
What kind of drum and bass was that?
Like Pendulum drum and bass.
Pendulum, okay.
Yeah.
Alright, so that was like a bit of a crossover with rock as well.
Yeah, but there was, I was sort of listening to bits and bobs of grime as well at the time, and...
Where were you based when you were listening to all this music, when you were 16?
Where was I based?
Yeah.
Swindon, so grew up in Swindon, moved out when I was 20, went to university in Bournemouth, did audio music tech there.
Yeah. Nice. What was going on in Bournemouth, music scene-wise?
Music scene-wise, not a lot. So I was there 3 years, and I think there was probably a couple of club events that are similar to what it's like in Bristol, but it's very rare to go to like a decent night like what we would do here. But yeah, so Bournemouth was a bit dry, and I had a lot of mates move to Bristol around that time when I was in Bournemouth, so I'd come from Bournemouth to Bristol to go out quite a lot anyway. But I guess sort of before that, dubstep was taken off massively.
So you're coming down to Bristol, coming to these dubstep nights?
Yeah.
Whereabouts are these nights happening?
Mainly Motion, some smaller places as well. So when Lovin used to be the bank,
Yeah.
bits and bobs going on there. Crash Mansion as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'd say the switch was probably that really got me into electronic music, sort of making anything similar to what I do now was when I heard Benga's first album.
Yeah.
And kind of got into dubstep through that. And it's actually like, it was pretty close with metal anyway. Like the way that
some of the sound palettes.
Yeah, similar rhythms. And yeah, it just sounded heavy. So it's kind of what got me into electronic music properly anyway.
So you're going from Bournemouth to Bristol quite regularly.
Yeah.
At this point, had you started experimenting with producing
Yeah.
on a computer instead of being in a band?
Yeah.
How far away within your journey doing that? Were you making dubstep, or were you making grime, or what were you making?
Firstly, it was dubstep, yeah, and just started trying to sort of refine the sound, get my own sound, and I guess it was actually only when I moved to Bristol I started sort of experimenting a bit more in like grime instrumentals and like the post dubstep sort of stuff. So like that sort of Night Slug sound, the Night Slugs era, that heavily influenced me as well. And sort of switched up my production around that point. So yeah.
Good. So I met you around the time when you were still making grime under your old alias, Sentiment.
Yeah.
We were both residents at the same event called Four Seasons.
Yeah.
It was a monthly thing down at Timbuktu.
Yeah, yeah.
That was pretty forthcoming at the time, actually, that event.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah. Big
Some
up Kieran.
fantastic names being brought down to that. Big up Kieran and Jack. I met you, I was about 17 when we were playing at those events, and you were doing the grime thing. Were you running the event Sprung already alongside this, or was this coming up after we were doing the Four Seasons?
Yeah, I think that must have just come just after. I think we did our first Sprung in 2014, maybe 2015. But yeah, so we did our first event. I can't remember the place it was, but it was an old market, and it's quite a small event. But yeah, we started. After that, we sort of looked. We were sort of talking like funky, like UK funky, like wasn't being played that much at that point, and we all had the idea that we wanted to essentially throw a UK funky night or a UK funky event, and we ended up throwing the first one at Blue Mountain, and we actually did all of them there. We did one a year. It was like UK funky summer day party.
Yeah. And
the idea was try and fit it with. Get a couple of legends down. Legends, I mean like the old school names.
What kind of names are they?
So like Apple, Ill Blue. We had to scratch it down to one of them. DJ Naughty.
So all the big names from funky from back in the day.
Yeah. So we were trying to sort of half and half the lineup with sort of old school producers or DJs and a couple of people that were like current at the time as well. So yeah, and that's kind of where I got into UK funky.
Were you Sentiment at this time, or were you?
Yeah, I was still producing under that alias, and I think it was I was producing under that alias, but I was sort of making UK funky in the background, and then I think one day I made a track that I was pretty happy with, and I just forwarded it to Rosca on Facebook, I think. And then the next day he messaged me back and was like, yeah, that sounds good, I want to sign it. So...
You didn't want to do it under Sentiment anymore?
No.
No, so this was the birth of DJ Polo.
Yeah.
I remember this is around the time we joined the collective together called the WRLC, and you were sending these demos on SoundCloud, but all of your pictures were pictures from Minecraft. Yeah. And you were like, this is how this is gonna look.
Yeah.
This is what it is.
Yeah. It was.
You're not doing that anymore, yeah.
I kind of had to set it up quite. I kind of had to set up I set up the page quite quick, and then and it just started rolling quite quickly. So
it did roll quickly. So what was next? I said it did roll quickly.
Yeah,
what was next?
Yeah.
So you did your first EP on the DJ Polo, the RKS first release. How did that go down?
Yeah, it went good. Yeah, I think I did a couple of releases with RKS, and then I Had a Dream and Sam Interface just started at More Time, and I think I had reached out to me and asked if I had any tracks. So I think just ended up building an EP for those guys, and yeah, that was the More Time one, And
Was that the Limonata or something like that?
yeah, it was. Yeah,
Do you have Grim Sickers on that one?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was that one. He did a vocal for it. Um, and yeah, I think after that, I've sort of like dipped in and out of RKS. Like Roscoe's always sort of like been a bit of like a mentor for me as well. He's always given me good advice. And yeah, I've done a few bits with him since then as well.
So then moved on to things with Scratcher as well, right? You've done a few records with Scratcher, including Hyperdub, right?
Yeah, yeah. So more recently, see, with me and Scratcher, we've just had like an endless collab swap. So the idea is, I'll make, you know, if I'm putting out an EP, he'll do a collab. I'll owe him a collab, and it's just kind of been endless at the moment. So yeah, kind of through that, I've ended up putting a track out, well, a couple of tracks out on Hyperdub now.
Nice.
Which,
Did you
yeah.
get in the studio together, or is that you send each other stems?
Yeah, it's just stems, yeah. Yeah, so I'll just send him some drums and he'll put something on it and then sort of bounce it back and
nice.
forth.
And is that the best way for you to work? Do you like getting in the studio with people, or are you a type of person that likes to do it secret and you just do it at your own time and do the stems?
Yeah, I think sometimes, I mean, I can work both ways, but I think, I don't know, some it's nice to get in the studio because, say, sometimes you could send off a beat and then get something back and then you're not too keen on it, and then you don't know how long the other person spent on that. So if you're like, I'm not actually too keen on that, can you remove that?
That awkward moment when someone says you something and you don't like it at all, when you got to
Yeah.
dance around that subject.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that ever happen much with you, with anyone, or you normally get on with things easy?
No, I think I'm quite easy, but I mean, it's just best to say in it because otherwise then the collab just goes dead in the water and then it's kind of stagnant after that. So yeah, but I mean, you know, sometimes it's in the studio and other times it's online. But I like working with vocalists in the studio. It's just a bit easier.
So with your latest thing on Club Djembe is Zav and a group of other people's event. Happens quite regularly in Bristol now, doesn't it? It's become a bit of a mainstay for funky and Amapiano and Gom and all things surrounding those genres. Yeah,
that's right. So I used to play for, like, sort of just at Club Djembe events, and obviously quite close with everyone that runs it as well. So I think it was a few years back once they started the label. That's always something I really wanted to be involved with. So yeah, I think at the time I just was like, guys, I want to get involved with the label side of things. So I've been doing that for the last couple of years, and that seems to be like flowing quite well at the moment as well. And that's just a different aspect of getting into another part of music as well. So
yeah. And this is what today we're going to be dissecting your latest thing on there, Supermalt.
Yeah.
With how many guest MCs are on this one?
So there's two on this one. It's Mr. Silver and Ramsey. So this one, so this is off Nostalgia EP, which came out on Club Djembe, and the whole sort of idea behind this was like working with Ramsey, just been on the cards for quite a long time. I've done a couple of like radio sets with him, and we've always sort of said, yeah, we definitely need to collab at some point. And I think we started doing it like a year and a half ago, and he's like, look, I really want to get this made now, let's do this. And he was just like, I've got an idea, I want to get a load of MCs that used to sort of host funky back in the day, and he's like, they're all going to be keen. I've got a bag of names. And yeah, we just started writing. So this one's got Mr. Silver and Ramsey on it. Yeah, should I get it up?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
When you just one question, before you were doing that with you obviously did this show on Rinse about last year. Was this before you had recorded Supermalt? You had like a whole bag of MCs on there, and it was crazy. But was this pre-Supermalt, or?
It's the Rinse show was before it dropped.
Yeah.
But we'd already recorded it all, so.
Okay, alright. So this is just like a good promo tool to.
Yeah, we kind of did a couple of the tracks as like a PA on there. So yeah, it was good. It was good fun.
You can check the clips on his Instagram page. It's lively studio rinse with like so many people. And it looks amazing.
It was fun. Yeah, it's just like there was a lot of energy in that set, and I think it's good. You should listen back.
And you had Ramsey down for a Club Djembe show late last year, right?
Yeah.
With live PA, with him for an hour and a half, and you playing.
Yeah. Ramsey and Silver on that. Yeah.
Should we get into this?
Yeah, let's get into it.
So when you're opening up Ableton and you're looking at the empty canvas, empty screen, where do you start normally? If that's I know that's an annoying question.
If this was empty, I'd always start with a kick drum, I think. So that's kind of where I try and get my rhythm started. So most time I've got like a rough idea of something going on in my head, like some kind of rhythm or maybe a melody. But even before I write the melody down, I might even just like record a voice note of the melody on my phone, just like humming into it. But yeah, most time I just start with a kick.
Get that kick on.
Should I put the kick on?
Yeah, give it a little solo and start playing that.
So like normally as well, I'd put it in a loop. So we've got like, imagine there was nothing on the screen. I might even do like an 8-bar loop, and then we get the kick going. So yeah, it's kind of broken rhythm, like syncopated. So that'd be my kick, and then from there, usually I'd just double that up with a snare, just so we got some. So yeah, I mean, from here, I just I keep adding until I got some form of beat that I'm happy with.
Where are you getting all these samples from? Do you splice or cut stuff from records or downloading big packs from?
Yeah, so I mean, I just obviously acquired a lot of samples over the years, and what I actually do now is I just search for like what I want in the search bar instead of going to like. So if I want like a snare,
kick.
If I want a snare, I'll just search in snare, and then I'll go through all of this. I'll just trawl through something until I find a sound that I'm happy with.
Yeah.
But also, in here I don't really work with audio samples. I would essentially create a new MIDI file and drag the sample into a MIDI file.
Using a simpler.
Yeah, using this right
here.
You
do everything via MIDI for the rhythms.
Pretty much everything via MIDI. There's a couple of things that I would do in audio, but mainly all via MIDI. And like, there's a couple of reasons for that. Mainly because if I decide I don't like the sound of like a snare,
you can just change up the snare easy.
Yeah. So if it's all in audio and I've copied and pasted the whole sort of thing in audio, then it's just a hassle to change it at the end of the day.
Gets messy as well.
Yeah, so I mean, there's more. Obviously, you can like manipulate the sample inside the simpler in here. So, I can kind of get it sounding how I want to using that. So, for example, maybe this snare. It's not got a long tail. I've kind of shortened the release and the decay on here, so it's a bit more snappy. So yeah, I kind of just build everything in MIDI just because it's just easier to change.
Why don't you start playing that kick again?
Yeah.
And then why don't you bring in a couple things?
So there, that's like my snare group. So we kind of got the the funky snare rhythm going on there. So yeah, I mean, like once I've got like the snares and the claps sort of layered, It's the shakers.
How many snares you got?
I mean, there's probably actually too many, to be honest. There's probably not much need for all of them. But
how many is too many?
I layer snares quite a lot to sort of give it some, I don't know, to sort of give it some more oomph.
Thickness and whatnot.
And once I've got like that sort of like the start of the beat going, I'll put some shakers down. As you can see as well, I've got a few.
Why don't you play the shakers so everyone can hear?
The shakers on their own, yeah.
Yeah, why not?
So I mean, here we've probably got a couple of shaker loops in there. Okay, so these are MIDI. I lied. These are these are audio.
Yeah.
I lied there. But yeah, I like to sort of layer the shakers, give it a bit of width as well. So yeah, there we go. I've got like 3 shaker audio clips in there. So yeah.
So you've done your drums. Well, not done your drums, but you're doing your drums, and what's next for this? You're thinking synthesizers, you're thinking bass line, vocal chops. What's next in the Polo recipe? Yeah,
so once we've done that, or once I've done that even, sort of get a bass. Do you know what actually?
What's this
when I wrote this, I remembered now. So this here, let me find a synth. So
it's just the Ableton bass synth.
That bass is just the Ableton bass, to be honest.
There's nothing wrong. That's good.
It sounds great. With this track, the kind of the idea actually started with this, which is like literally it's a saw wave sample. Sounds awful on its own, but I wanted to get some stabs down. So I've kind of played in some chords here. So this was like the starting idea of the melody. And then I wanted to get the bass to go with it, so. Kind of layered the bass over the saw wave stabs.
What?
So at that point, I got like the majority of the track. And then I guess it's just from there, just add in like little tweaks, like little extra sort of effects, just to sort of complement it, keep it moving. So the idea, obviously, for this is like where I was writing it for an MC, trying to structure like an intro, a verse, a chorus. And what is different about this that I wouldn't normally do is kind of like coming up with a bridge idea, or like a sort of like the bridge just after the chorus bit. So I use a lot of marimbas in my tracks. Again, I think this is just the Ableton preset here, this marimba. So I think I came up with this sort of little melody here. So that there was the bridge. I've got to mention as well, so in this chorus section, or like what we sort of decided was going to be the chorus, I actually layered another marimba over the bass, so it's got sort of some like harmonization on the bass as well, and it just gives it like sort of extra tone on there. Let me just mute the vocal. So yeah, I mean, once I'd finished the track,
were you writing this track in the studio?
I actually wrote this at home. So I wrote the best part of it at home, and then I booked in a studio session with Ramsey. Went down to London, and
is that just a pirate radio, pirate studios?
Yeah, it was a pirate, and I think I think we had, honestly, I think I booked like a 3-hour session. He was like an hour and a half late, and then he went to get a drink, and then his tyre blew out. So honestly, we had about half an hour, and I think he kind of just like freestyled it. He just said he had this idea because he loves super malt, like the drink super malt.
Yeah.
So
They got super malt.
yeah, it actually doesn't taste that great, but no, he loves it, and him and Silver love it. So they were like, yeah.
Do you like super malt?
Do I?
Yeah.
It's like probably like a 4 out of 10.
4 out of 10.
Yeah,
Just below
I
average.
could drink it, but it's not amazing.
Okay.
But yeah, so I think he was just sort of like jamming this idea of it's a super malt. If I can try and find it somewhere, but that's all we got down in that session. Is that
So
he just come up with like.
How long was the session for recording session?
In the end, honestly, about 20 minutes. But because
Did he go to the shops to get super malt, or was he getting something different?
He probably was. But yeah, like I said,
come up with it on the spot.
His tyre blew out. I had to go and collect him, and then it was just all a bit hectic, really. But yeah, so like, but the main point is he got that hook line down, and that was what we were going to roll with. So I think he went away, wrote some verses. I think Silver was writing in the background. So I think, when I went back to London again, we got the rest of the stuff down, and then we actually went to Silver's studio, and Silver did the verse and his like chorus bits as well. So as you can see here, this section here all looks a bit hectic, but all of these are like
bring this down. So you can see how many.
I don't actually think I can.
Is it?
Yeah, but so I mean, there's probably about 15 different vocal channels there. So
how many? So 15 vocal channels after about 3 sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I've just sort of split those out into like, say for this one for example, it's like Silver intro. Then we've got like the ad libs on another channel. We might even I've even got something here which is literally just like, I think this is him. Oh, what's that? Oh, there we go, one sec.
Like instrumental rude boy get buried.
Yeah, for example, this here. I've got a separate channel for that because I just want to make sure that we've got like the right reverbs or to like delay.
What are these here? These FF Pro.
This here.
Yeah.
So that's just the EQ on the vocals here. So. I mean, again, I've just EQ'd each channel slightly differently. So this is the Fab filter. It's probably just my main go-to of all sort of VSTs. Any sort of
ranging from any VST, Fab filter is the one, is it?
It is the one. It is for me, yeah, definitely. So like mainly use the EQs, the saturator quite a lot as well. Sort of like brings out some like essential frequencies in a channel for me anyway. But yeah, so like process-wise, once we got all this down, like as you can see, there's a lot of channels. It's kind of like it was a lot of selecting the best take. I probably had a lot more than this. I reckon it was probably about 50 channels. It was just going through each one. But I took that away. Went home, spent like a lot of time going through each take, trying to find out which was the best one. And there's probably even some bits on here that have. Like I think you can see here, this would have been from one take. That's probably from something else. So just making sure that it's
you're
like
just cutting and pasting things together to get to the final result.
Yeah, definitely.
Why don't we have a listen to it from start to finish?
Yeah, let's run it.
I be the super, super. I be the super, super. I be the super, super. I be the super, super.
I got love for the Super Bowl. In the club for the Super Bowl. I'm the plug for the Super Bowl. I'm the plug for the Super Bowl. I got love for the Super Bowl. Yeah, I'm the club for the Super Bowl. I'm the plug for the Super Bowl. I'm the plug for the Super Bowl.
Like instrumental root, but it get very. Come to the dance, I'm silly. Mic in my hand, I'm silly. Go for them, you know, yeah, like very. You better know better, like Henny, cause you don't wanna see red, yeah, like cherry. Man, come to V, nice and merry. She done the dance from London to Italy. S the I, the L, V, A, ready. Know them super, but they come steady. I'm telling them, I don't come like many. Kill it instinct in the name and credit. Love for the Kelly, sip on the Henny. One time catch me and need that belly. Flow come piping hot like Perry. Alright, yeah. You know I come strong like super. You better know like super. You know so we call like super. Yeah, man, know that super. You know I come strong like super. You better know I'm super. You call like super. You better know that super.
You better know I'm cold like super. 2-2 bubble like super. They're on road in my super. Man, I'm too cold like super. Cold like super. Say man, a real London trooper. They're on road in my super. Say man, I'm too cold like super. I'm like, hey, Charlie, I don't care, Charlie. If you want them more, I'm there, Charlie. I drink more every day, Charlie. I be the problem, I need prayer, Charlie.
Oh, you know the man, Charlie. I don't go like Charlie. With them all day, oh, you know me love Charlie. I want some Charlie. Big energy, oh, when I'm done, Charlie. That's the vibe, Charlie.
I got love for the Super Bowl. In the club for the Super Bowl. I'm the plug for the Super Bowl. I'm the plug for the Super Bowl. I got love for the Super Bowl. Yeah, I'm the club for the Super Bowl. I'm the plug for the Super Bowl. I'm the plug for the Super Bowl. Everybody know that it's all I swallow. My flow's cold and my tone ain't mono. Ramsey, Rammers, Jammers, Rambolo. I said trend fact, man don't follow. That UK Funky Apollo. I rep South like my name was Hollow. Man try say that he don't drink more, so I block and delete and straight unfollow. Yeah, man snapped on the rhythm. Wheel up again, pull back on the rhythm. Them man they just cap on the rhythm. When I come true, man snapped on the rhythm like what? Man a man hot like shit off. Your mixtape get dashed like litter. I top ins, never miss a sitter. Ramsey music, IG and Twitter.
You know I come strong like super. You better know like super. You know so we call like super. Yeah, man, know that super. You know I come strong like super. You better know I'm super. You call like super. You better know that super.
You better know I'm cold like super. 2-2 bubble like super. They're on road in my super. Man, I'm too cold like super. Cold like super. Say man, a real London trooper. They're on road in my super. Say man, I'm too cold like super.
I think like one of the favourite things about this for me is like they left all of the jokes bits in.
Turn that down a little bit.
So like
Whoop, whoop. Super.
yeah, so they leave all like the. It was just a fun song to make, and I think they wanted it to be fun. It kind of came out fun. You can hear they're having fun with it, and that's sort of why we left all of the the funny ad libs in there. And yeah, I think it came out good. Yeah, came out how I wanted it to.
Lovely. So obviously you're able to work with people in the studio regular basis. Moving on to your Liberty Sound release with the Tribal Brothers.
Yeah.
It's a 4-track record, right?
Yeah.
Did you write all that in the studio together? Were you in London or in Bristol? Or?
Yeah. So again, like that was something that we'd always talked about. So I met Tribal Brothers at a Club Djembe event, like pre-lockdown. I can't remember what year it was, but a couple of years before lockdown, and we kind of discussed briefly then, like we should collab at some point. And then, yeah, it was just always on the cards. And then a couple of years ago, we finally just booked in a studio session, and those guys like work in the studio a lot, I think. But whereas I'm not as used to that, I'd probably just work at home usually. But I think it was Raz. He was like, we should book a 12-hour session. And
It's a big day.
yeah, it's massive.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we went down to London. I think I played out the night before, and I was like absolutely knackered the next day. But like, we just basically walked up to a Pirate Studios, and yeah, so we had 12 hours in there, and we were just like, how are we gonna even do this? Like, so we come up with the idea that we all sort of had our Macs on us, and it was like, if everyone starts a track and then just pass it around like every half hour, maybe every hour.
Yeah.
And that's how we came up with the EP, basically. So, yeah, it was a completely different way of writing. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's
So
really good.
every single track So someone would have started a track with drums, say,
Yeah.
and you would have gone on there. The drums are already done, so you're
Yeah,
you're using your different skill
yeah.
to do something else. So
Yeah, say we've all started a track with drums, and then we're like essentially just passing it round. One, obviously, the drum's going to be from someone, each from someone different, and then someone else might when I guess like when you got past the MacBook, you might be putting melody on it, you might be putting something else on there. But yeah, it's a really interesting way of working. Yeah, really happy with how that came out.
So did you come up with every single demo for that project that day?
Yeah,
that one session.
We actually finished 3 of them. It was just one that we didn't finish. So yeah, it was a long day, but yeah, it's definitely worth it.
I think that's a fantastic way to collaborate with 3 people.
Yeah.
Because it's not 3 of you wrapped around like one screen and one mouse and getting gassed and jumping in.
Yeah, definitely. And it's always interesting. Like, obviously, like we all had headphones on, but then it'd be like, I guess like when it was time to switch over, we'd play it on the speakers and be like, "Yo, love what you just put on there."
Yeah.
And then it was just an interesting way of working. Like,
it was good.
I'd definitely do it again.
Good energy inside the studio for the 12 hours then.
Yeah, definitely. And then that's why we called it 12 hours in the end. Right, so let's bring up one of these. Better save that.
I think Zab was having to piece together all of the vocal samples from different USBs yesterday or something like that, right? Before showing us what was happening today.
I haven't opened these files for quite a long time, and I opened Supermalt yesterday and all of the vocal stems were missing, so I had to trail through a hard drive and a USB to like locate those vocal stems, but we got there.
Why don't we have a listen to this one first before we start dissecting it?
Should we play it through?
Yeah, let's play this one through.
So yeah, that's that.
So tell me, I want to know about the bass parts. That's the bit that intrigues me the most with these particular tracks, especially with the amapiano influence.
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and solo the bass part, and you can tell us a little bit about what was going on. Did you write those bass parts?
Yeah, so I think this was the one that I started with the drums. But let's go through, the bass. So on here, I think there's, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's like 5 different channels for the bass. So let's have a look. Because Raz and LR are like crazy into their log drums as well. Like LR's probably got the craziest sounding log drums out there, definitely. So this file's his. This is pretty nutty. So I think it's just kind of like we just bouncing the bass ideas off each other. So this is the full bass channel.
Wow.
So yeah, we've got a sub on here, and then this channel's a log
they
drum.
sound crazy.
Yeah, so that's the main bass channel, and then I think like with the drums.
So these samples that you're using.
Yeah, so
Are these samples or VST or
all sample based again? Yeah. I'll be honest, I don't know. I'm not too sure how LR's done this channel, but my 2 channels on here, they're both samples.
Is that just from a pack, like a log drum pack?
I think this one here is a double Dutch sample. Do you remember double Dutch?
I don't know.
They're good.
Okay.
But this is from their pack. I think that's from Splice. But again, I've pulled that into a MIDI channel, so that it can just be like easily edited. Sort of played around with the release and the decay on there as well, just to make it a bit shorter. Sort of getting it how I want it to sound a bit more. And yeah, again, I think that one's from Double Dutch as well. So yeah.
So is this one that you would have started in the session? Is this one that like you did the first parts to? Or?
This is the one where this is the 4th track that we made. So this is the one that we started and we didn't quite get it finished. But I think we got like the drums down. Raz come up with this nice little flute melody in there. Where is it? So we had that and essentially the beat as well. And it was only like afterwards where we sort of put the where we got like the bass going as well. I think we probably had about this from the first session. The rest of it was done online, so yeah. But yeah, again, like I said, that session was probably the most interesting session I've done because it's just a completely new way of working for me, and it came together nicely.
Why don't you show us a little bit with the drums and how you program the rhythm on this one?
Yeah, so let's keep that flute in. I always put like something, like to have like a little bit of atmosphere in there as well. So like this channel, I'll turn it up. So like stuff like that's quite important in my mix as well. Even though it's quite low, it's still there. So this group of percussion here, that's sort of like giving it that bit extra rhythm. And then yeah, like I said, the bass came last, so but yeah, I think like I'm trying to just group everything in here as it's come through. So I think before I've mixed this, it is just a mess. There's like I think probably like 40 different channels.
Yeah.
So when I come to mix downs, I think I mix this one down. Try and just group everything sort of like relative. So I've obviously got a group there called LR samples, like percussions. We've got this is just like the bass channel, separate percussion channel, like shakers and hats in another channel as well. So it just helps with like the mix down process to get everything grouped together. And then it can just go through the same processing, like same EQs. If I'm going to put distortion or anything, we can put it on the actual group as opposed to like per channel.
Yeah. Is there any special VSTs or effects that you think gives you the DJ Polo kind of sound within anything, whether it be on the drums or the bass or?
I do use this overdrive quite a lot, the Ableton overdrive.
You can't go wrong with the Ableton overdrive.
Not at all. It just pulls out frequencies that that maybe weren't audible before and just gives it like that really gritty, sort of harder hit than it would have done initially. And like working a lot with samples as well, I kind of think you've got to manipulate them in a way where you've changed it, you've made it different. Like the way that it's processed is obviously going to make it sit right in the mix, and how it sounds as a whole. Yeah, I think like we mentioned earlier, I use FabFilter for a lot of stuff. It's just like a really good VST pack. It's got everything in there. So I've got like a gate. It's got EQs. It's got compression. It's got limiter in there. I mean, most time when I do my demos, and I'm like, if I'm sending a demo somewhere, I will just literally put this limiter on it. So that's obviously kind of what's pushing it up, making it loud, compressing it a bit.
Are you just using something that's set on there?
So I'll kind of like, so there's the presets on here. I'll go through a preset, and when it sounds good, I'll maybe settle on one, but then I'll go down here and I'll change the attack and release of like the compression on the track on the limit. So yeah.
So would you say that mostly, apart from these FabFilter VSTs, that you're using a lot of Ableton stuff that's just in the box?
Yeah, just in the box. Like the EQs on Ableton are great. The synths on Ableton are good as well. I mean, like say you're looking for like a mallet sound, it's going to be on there. If you're looking for a conga, there'll probably be one on there as well. So like some of the preset synths are great. I mean, I've recently started using Massive again.
Nice, the dubstep days.
Yeah, the dubstep days. Yeah. But I've not used it in years, so like trying to play around with Massive is just like trying to sort of familiarise myself with that again. So.
I could never get my head around that. I used to watch YouTube tutorials on how to make a Skrillex bass or something back in the day, and you just watch this video and you'd twiddle like so many knobs and different ways, but I never understood how it made that sound.
Yeah, it's techie. Yeah, I mean, fair play to people that can use synths like really well. But I prefer working with samples, mainly because I can get stuff down faster.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. How are we looking for time?
We're on 1:45.
I'd like to see one more thing. With you saying that you prefer to use samples, but you were showing me something which I thought was pretty intriguing today, which was the log drum VST, which I didn't realise was a thing.
Yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know, log drum is something, it's an element within the amapiano, which is the bass sound, which is normally like pretty rolling. And kind of a big thing in FL Studio, which is they use the FM bass in there to produce it. But I always thought that you had to go on to FL Studio to produce this sounding bass. But today you showed me that there's a VST which does that.
Yeah, I mean, up until recently, it's just inside FL Studio. And so I think any samples that have been like used or created have been out of FL Studio. Because as far as I know, there's not a similar thing on Ableton or on Logic. So I know a lot of people, if they're producing amapiano, but they use another workstation, they will literally go on Fruity, make the log roll sounds, bounce them out, and then put it back into their like digital audio workstation. So it just seems like a lot of hassle. But I mean, recently, like they've just brought out the log drum VST, which
Do you want to show us?
Do you want to
show it to us? So anyone can see what it looks like.
Well,
because I didn't know what it looked like until earlier when you were showing it to me, and I was like, wow.
Let's get a. Do you know what? This is like $19 as well, so it's definitely worth it. So I think this it calls on samples from somewhere, like saved. I think I saved the folder on my desktop, but it calls on samples, and we've got like a load of like presets in here. What's it sound like? So there we go. We've got the log drum sound. We've got some evolved ones. Some of these are crazy. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, we can also like change the release, the sustain, the decay on there, like distortion, saturation. So yeah, if anyone's out there looking for some log drum synth, then this is it. Can't remember who it's by, but yeah, if you search log drum VST, I'm sure you can find it.
So making Amapiano never got so easy instead of having to fly between all these different
you don't have to
workstations.
download Fruity Loops now to make the log drum. So yeah.
Did you get involved with Fruity Loops again when you were trying to make?
I mean, I tried using it, and it's just so alien to me that I can do it. Yeah. So yeah, I'm pretty happy this is out. $19.
That's a good deal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's really good.
Has anyone got any questions for DJ Polo this evening about anything that he's shown you today, or anything in a personal life? Or
Thank you, both of you, for the talk. So my first question is basically, could you talk about moving from different genres? How do you do that but still maintain your own sound?
So I think this is a hard one. I guess like that is a good question. I think it comes down to my sample selection as well, and maybe like the melodies that I play within as well. And I guess if I'm sort of experimenting with a different genre, I would still try and use a lot of my same sounds that I use. So I've got like some sort of signature sounds. I always use a whistle. There's probably a whistle in like 90% of my tracks somewhere. And like I guess like sort of stick to like a similar rhythm as well, even though it might be a different genre, different BPM. Yeah, I try and use like similar sounds to what I usually do, so I can try and keep within my sound as well.
I feel like you have a very distinct way of putting things together as well. So when you send me something, I always know that it's like Polo drums or something like that. I feel like you're always putting together the same way of processing. So maybe between your genres, it probably helps that you would always put it together the same way, no matter the BPM or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. I always come at it the same way. So like what I've tried to explain earlier, always start with a kick drum and then layer the snares, and like I think that'd be the same whether it's sort of, you know, whether I'm trying to make Amapiano or UK Funky or even like other things that other genres that I've experimented with as well. Sort of come at it the same approach. And use like similar sounds within the track.
Nice. Any more questions?
Hello.
Hey.
Thank you very much for the talk. It was really interesting. I wanted to talk a bit about the like UK Funky revival, because I think there's a few people who will hear it now who are kind of like part of the younger generation who perhaps won't realise it has its roots in like the like late noughties, but it kind of feels like this time it's more within that axis in like Durban and like the GOM, like Amapiano stuff. But I wondered from like your perspective, for someone who's kind of like been in it from the start, like how you've seen it evolve, if like actually we can't really call it a revival, it's always like existed in the underground somewhat. Or what you think might have caused this kind of like upsurge of UK Funky.
Yeah, that's interesting, because this has been spoke about loads, and there's been like a lot of articles around it, a lot of like discussions around it as well. I mean, I think there's always been like people that have stuck to it. Like for example, Roscoe's someone that is like, since he started making it, he's just constantly made it. And like never really like gone to a different genre except for funky. So he's like the flag flyer for funky. But I think like I don't know. I think it's kind of realistically, I think I missed like the first like couple of like sort of like waves of funky, and I probably come into it in like the third wave. So I think maybe now you could maybe attribute it to like the scene in South Africa and like Amapiano and Gom being made, and it is inspiring like UK artists to sort of like do our version of that, which I think is influenced by UK Funky and, you know, Amapiano, Gom, like similar genres to that. So I think that's maybe why we're seeing sort of like a resurgence in it now. So yeah, I'll probably put it down to that.
Everyone's using the log drum and funky and that now, aren't they?
Yeah. So I mean, like the House Super guys, I mean, realistically, all the House Super lot were in the first wave of funky. So Super D and like Apple, Pioneer, all those guys were sort of right there at the start of funky, and now they're all sort of like doing the Amapiano sort of stuff, but yeah, in the UK, and they've put like a UK twist on it. So I'd just say it's like sort of an evolution of what it was previously.
It's because in the UK everyone's putting a kick on it pretty loud and pretty heavy, right? But with the Amapiano, I saw like the kicks are
it's soft.
Very, very quiet.
Yeah, it's barely audible, isn't it?
I couldn't believe it when like NKC was first playing it like a few years ago, and I was like, what, this is mad. There's no kick at all, but it's the log drum which is doing that.
That's the main sort of rhythm of it. Yeah.
Any more questions?
Thanks for that. First question would be, when you first started making the music and getting more established, and you were sending it out more and you getting more bookings, and you're starting to become a bit more of a name in the scene with UK Funky, and then you started rubbing shoulders with some of the, like, you know, the original people, like collaborating with them. How did you find it? They were kind of hard to break in with? Do you reckon they were sort of kind of gatekeeping it, or were they really open and just letting you straight in?
I think like everyone that I've worked with has just been like extremely sort of helpful, and kind of like up for just giving me a hand with sort of like supporting. And like I said, like Rosca sort of immediately was like up for giving me a lot of advice, and sort of because I mean at this point I didn't have much previous sort of like knowledge of how everything worked properly within like the music scene. So he's always been really supportive. But yeah, I mean, like people sort of going back to what we were talking about earlier with Sprung, like everyone we booked at the funky parties that we put on was like extremely accepting and like, yeah, all like really supportive.
You were like bearing the torch for it when funky wasn't really a thing, you know, like everything you were doing was funky orientated, but I didn't know anyone else that was doing that in Bristol.
Yeah, I think at that point there wasn't any funky really been. I don't know. Maybe there was the odd occasional track being played out, but no one was actively pushing it. So I think again that was one of the main reasons why we wanted to start doing these funky parties to sort of I don't know, give it a home again. So yeah.
You did that, didn't you? Any more questions?
Thanks for that. So for me, that Supermalt is like quite a departure from some of your earlier stuff, and it's got a different vibe to it, and with that like synth in it, and I can see like a few other influences on that. And when you were just playing those log samples and stuff, actually like some of those sounds, if you hear them just on their own, they're quite like techno, like Virgin on a 303 kind of thing. And like I think it's sick that funky has like got this like power behind it now, and it's starting to change. And like you guys said, like UK is putting its own spin on it. Do you think like that will keep happening with funky, and it will start like incorporating other bits and become its own kind of genre more? Or do you think it will start like blending with like say techno or say house or like other kind of vibes to and have that more accepting, because I think part of the reason the funky thing took a while is because it's quite like insular.
Yeah.
And then when you got Amapiano and stuff like that, then it started to grow. But I guess I just wonder, like, do you see yourself producing similar stuff but with like heavier influences from other electronic genres?
Yeah, I think with that, if you say UK funky, immediately people think of like the classics, like the Crazy Cousin stuff, like Do You Mind, and you know other tracks from around that era, which is like the first original era. And I think people are getting sort of stuck within that time scale. So I think when a lot of people hear UK funky or want to hear UK funky, it's just those tracks from that era. But unfortunately, there's literally like maybe 100 tunes, and that's it. So I think really what needs to happen is maybe it has definitely evolved, and I think that maybe it just needs a new name. Maybe there just needs to be like it needs to be under a new branch, or like a new genre. Because I mean, there isn't like people are still producing like UK funky influence stuff, but like I'm saying, it's got like influences sort of from around the globe pushed in it as well. And I think Scratcher tried to sort of name it like Funky 2.0, but it didn't. I don't know whether it caught on or not, but I haven't seen it catch on. But it does need some form of new name, and then I think it's gonna sort of just keep evolving really. But yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, it's a lot of like newer tracks are here, and it's got a lot more sort of like darker influences, a lot more percussive, and yeah, I think it's just going to continue to evolve. But yeah, maybe it needs a new name.
I remember at the last Djembe event when I was working at the door for you guys, and I heard a track inside, and it was just like an Amma cut. It sounded mental, but the frequencies and the way that it was coming through sounded like the original dubstep kind of like sounds, you know. And I remember you came out, and I was like, "What was that track?"
I know
exactly what track that was.
As well.
And I was like, "That's mad that it sounds like that," and it's just straight from South Africa.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, and that's the exciting thing about Amapiano is like it's only really started in the last few years, so I'm sure that's going to evolve. And just like that's probably the genre that's most excited me in the last like 8-9 years, because before, like, there's not been much, like, nothing like new genre, like nothing for me that's been like groundbreaking. So that's why I feel like Amapiano's got a lot to give as well, and it's still evolving now. So I think I'm excited to see where that goes.
Did you ever find out what that track was?
I do. I've got it saved on my Spotify, but I can't remember the name. I'll show you.
Yeah, you got to let me know that after. Any more questions? Well, I suppose we'll round that off. Thank you everyone for coming down today. And have we got one more?
Sorry, this is just a really quick one. But I've heard you talk in the past about like your perception of like the current scene, and how you're seeing a lot of producers who like think of funky as a certain rhythm, and like as long as they have those like really hard drums, they can kind of like neglect the swing and stuff like that. So I wondered if you could talk a little bit. You mentioned earlier about like shortening, release and decay, which I guess is kind of how you do it. But like on a technical level, how you like achieve the swing.
Sorry, do you mind repeating that first bit again? I didn't quite hear it.
You were just slating everyone, really. No, I'm joking. You were basically saying that a lot of producers forget that funky is all about like a swing. You know, and they like adopt these really hard drums, and like as long as like a certain rhythm pattern is there, it can be labeled as funky.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, I think that quote I think was directly sort of So like there's like the funky rhythm, which I guess is mainly in the snares, right? Or like the kick and the snare and that pattern. And what I was referring to, I think, when I said that was, I guess, it needs to have a swing to it. It needs to be like syncopated, and have like, yeah, essentially like a syncopated rhythm, like broken beat. And I think, yeah, I guess.
I feel like there was a period of time when people were saying, yeah, I make funky now. But what they were doing was putting the snare like in the funky.
Yeah,
but nothing else was funky about it.
Yeah, this is trying to get, I guess what I was trying to get at is, yeah, everything else about the track wasn't, you know, stereotypically funky, but then they've just put the kick and the snare in that sort of place, and it's like, yeah, this is UK funky. And yeah, I think, yeah, in terms of rhythm-wise, it needs to be a bit more swung, needs to have some more groove to it, needs to feel like you can dance to it.
Yeah, it's about the energy as a whole.
Yeah.
What makes funky the genre that it is.
Yeah.
It's not just about like the one or two elements. It's about the general vibe, isn't it?
The elements as a whole, yeah. Loads of whistles. Loads of whistles.
It's got to sound like the summer with a Bacardi and Coke and something like that. Yeah. Any more questions?
I just want to know what's next for you, whether it's nights or what you're going to produce next, or if you're allowed to talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, so I've got quite a bit planned for this year. Again, I've got like, I think 3 collab projects on the go at the moment. So yeah, I do really enjoy collaborating. So I also need to finish off a solo EP at some point. So that is in the works.
How much have you got done of this solo EP?
The solo EP. I mean, I narrowed it down the other day. So I was thinking I really need to sort of like get some of my own music out, so it's not just collabs all the time. And I think I narrowed it down to like 16 tracks. But then they're not like finished, but I sort of bounced them all out just so I could listen through them, sort them out into, you know, try and group them to be like, right, what ones do I want to finish? What ones do I want to take forward? And I think I narrowed it down to like 6, so I'm currently working on that as well. And yeah, I think one of the main things I'm excited about this year is got a remix coming out on Night Slugs, which has been like something that's like a label that's like really heavily influenced my sound over the years. So that should be out in a couple of months. And yeah, apart from that. What's that?
I said watch that. That's a big one.
Yeah. That should be coming. But yeah, aside from that, it's just head down writing music. Yeah.
Any more questions? Well, I guess we'll sign it off. Thank you so much, Mr. Polo, for coming down.
Thank you for everyone. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, and thank you everybody for coming down.